Okay, guys, alternate ending. Take 43.
With so many movies on the net and TV, it's kinda hard being up and film savvy. Do you catch a show while you're on the go? And how do you know what to keep or what to throw? How do you know what to keep or what to throw? Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Now, please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Alternate Ending.
Welcome to Alternate Ending, where we're discovering good movies one bad movie at a time. I'm your host, Carrie Jarsinski, and today I'm joined by one of the people that I know who clowns around the most ever.
Hey,
film critic Tim Brayton.
That was seeding in this week's topic.
It was here today, thanks to Patreon supporter Carl Beasley, to share our top 5 circus movies. That wasn't even planned. It's like our brains are in the same place. That was not even planned, and it wasn't in my notes. Just came to us spontaneously. And
spontaneously, indeed.
Exactly. And this is going to be a fun episode, not only because it's about circus movies.
Because the circus is fun.
Is it? We'll get there.
No.
It's not. I agree, but we'll talk about it. But I also want you to know that I haven't had a cup of coffee in several long times. I guess I had one with you a few days ago. But before that,
was that the last time you had coffee? Was when you had it with me?
Yes, but before that, it had been months. And today I had another one. I had another iced coffee. And so I'm really, really riding a high right now. So I just want to warn you about that.
So I was going to say, if when you and I had coffee together was the last time you had coffee, I have had coffee like 4 times since then.
Since that, yes. But we did see
and it has not even been
ago.
4 days,
That's
want
true.
to point out.
I know. And it was the best of times seeing you in person. But today, like I said, we're here to talk about movies with circuses in them, circus adjacent, or movies that kind of feel like a circus. We'll find out. There's lots of criteria to come. So I'm excited for this one as somebody who actually does hate circuses. But again, we'll get there. Before we do, we're recording a little bit early this week because, Tim, I have a trip upon me to Kentucky.
Kentucky is for lovers, I am led to believe.
Is that true?
I'm sure there are people in Kentucky who love each other.
But is that the slogan for Kentucky?
I don't believe so.
No, I think there is a place that is for lovers, but
let's see if I can find out. That's just a phrase that I use so like reflexively. I don't actually know where it originated.
Yeah, no, I think it might be Paris. I'm gonna guess it's the state of Paris, France, city of lovers.
Let us find out.
Okay. Well, as you're looking that up, I want to share a bit of anxiety that I have that I've been building for weeks now. And I'd love to get you to
Virginia is for lovers.
Oh, gross. No one wants to go to Virginia for love.
No, I would much rather go to Kentucky.
Yeah, I don't.
You got the Mammoth Caves there.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you got in Virginia? You got Mammoth Caves in Virginia? I think you don't.
Yeah, Virginia's terrible. Anyway.
Apologies to all our Virginia-based listeners.
Which actually, I know
I'm surprised you have the internet.
I'm so... You guys are the worst. No, some people in Virginia are very nice. I do know some of them. But I want you to walk me off the ledge of my anxiety here. So I have been employed to go to Kentucky for 5 days. And my job is that I need to prepare all of the food that is consumed by the cast and crew of the project that Rob's working on for 30 people for 5 days.
So you are craft services.
Yeah, that's my title.
Is there also a craft services strike? And is he also scabbing that?
Yeah, there probably should be. I'm not 100% really a good cook at all. So I'm a little nervous. There is some question marks. I feel bad for Rob. It's like I don't know how familiar you are with all of this, but there's a strike. There's a SAG strike that's happening.
There is a strike, and I agree. Our first response should be to feel very sorry for the
We should
producers.
film. They qualify to do this because of
because the shoot is
independent.
like a $10,000 shoot.
It's
not a
smaller.
real shoot.
Yes, it's like a pilot for a TV episode, and it's smaller, it's independent, and I think it qualifies based on the criteria. I think the gray area for them right now is, or that Rob's telling me about, is essentially like still just reputational risk. So they have this actress coming in from that 90s show, and then this other guy who's in this other show that you've probably heard of. I don't know. It has bad CGI.
Bet you should watch What You Say.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't actually know who these people are.
I bet that the title of the sitcom you referenced will not make it into the final cut of this episode.
You might
is my
be
suspicion.
right. You might be right. I'm not a very good secret keeper, if not told to keep said secret. So probably so. There might be a beep in here later, but these people would like to come, but I do think that there's again that reputational risk. And the thing is, same goes. Originally, they thought they could maybe get some non-SAG actors to come in too, because again, it's just a pilot for a concept for a series. But at the same time too, I think they're worried about some of the risk, again, just reputationally, even if they're allowed to do it as a non-SAG person for future projects. So many balls up in the air, and I feel bad for them. But again, I'm only really worried about myself because food is so important to me in terms of like people feeling full. And like, when you come to my house, I'm like always like, Tim, eat my cheese, eat my crackers. Like it bothers me.
It's creepy.
Is it?
It's just weird because you just like, I walk into your house and you're just saying, Tim, eat my cheese.
Eat my
and I'm
cheese.
like, I don't know what you're talking about. There isn't any cheese here. Why are you naked?
Where is the cheese? I don't even know. I don't want to think. Let's not double down on that conversation. Let's not go any deeper on that conversation. But yeah, I do like people to be fed. And so 30 people is a little scary for me, I'd say. But I'm going to try to go for it. I've got and then the other thing that I was going to tell you is I want this to be the best meal they've ever had. I want the cast and crew to walk away being like, wow, this lady's superhuman. She was able to make me a gyro. Most people give me pizza, but this lady gave me a gyro and falafel. I want it to be around the world cuisine.
I will give you two pieces of advice, one of which I hope will be very comforting.
Yeah.
You do not have to make good food because all they're going to want after a day of shooting is just
Sleep.
Mass going into their mouths.
That's what I've heard.
My other piece of advice, pizza is good because you can just kind of grab it with your hand and go wow, wow, and stick it in your mouth.
Yeah.
A gyro you have to hold and make sure it doesn't fall apart. There will be riots if you serve gyros.
I know, but I'm going to get the tzatziki sauce. I was going to steam some onions so they get a little bit soft with some herbs so that they could put that on the top with a nice tomato relish.
I mean the wrong kind of riots. I mean the kind of bad riots.
Oh, bad. Great. Well, this is my menu. I've got Indian food one day.
Oh yeah, that'll be great.
Chicken tikka masala.
Give a whole goddamn movie crew shoot at the shits. That'll be perfect.
Spicy. You know what? It's funny that you're saying this because I got a little defensive about my menu. So the director wrote me back and was like, "It feels like this is a little bit complicated, Carrie." And I was like, "No." I was like, "Is it complicated for you? Because it's not for me. I can handle this." And so finally she sort of backed down, but. Yeah, at one point I had an oatmeal bar planned and all this stuff. She kind of gave me a pass on those. So more to come, but I am a little bit anxious. And then I think the second thing I'm most anxious about, I don't know if I've ever told you this before. Do you know I have catophobia? Have we talked about this?
I think Kate's a lovely lady. I think that's a really mean thing you just said about her.
She's also from Virginia. So that's the worst. No, it is. Have you heard of this phobia though?
No, I have not.
It is, it's a fear of hair. It's a fear of loose hair. And I know you're going to think I'm making this up, but if there is food, hair that is in food, I will throw up. So okay. I'm like, do I wear a hairnet? My worst fear would that be I lose a hair in one of their burritos and they find it. And so that's also giving me secondary paranoia. So do I wear a hairnet? What do I do? But I'm like losing sleep over possible hair.
I respect that. Hair and food is very gross.
Yes.
I'm also really mad that it took me this long to realize that my correct response should have been, I didn't know that you had a fear of hair, but I knew that you had a fear of hair brushes.
I see. Because my hair's ugly.
Your hair looks fine today. Actually, you look very
today.
kempt. Much more kempt than I am.
I know, just today.
No, I think a hairnet is an appropriate thing if you're cooking food for a mass of people.
I think that's what I'm gonna do because
get your lunch lady on.
Yeah, I didn't think about it until yesterday when I was eating an omelet and there was a hair in it. And this is what made this is what
was
triggered
it
the
your
fear.
hair?
It might have been. It doesn't matter for me. Like if you find your own hair,
but
in
this
your
was
food,
not a restaurant type hair.
No, I made it.
Okay.
And then I was like, I literally almost threw up because I was like, this is the grossest thing I've ever seen.
See, if I'm in my house and I find a cat hair in my food, and you do, like you get cat hair in your food if you have cats in the house, in the same way that you get, toxoplasmosis. It just happens.
Yeah.
If I was in a restaurant and I saw hair in my food, I would not be able to like control my gag reflex. I would probably just puke right there at the table.
So I agree. And I can recount. It was like there was the lox and bagel incident of 2011 in Chicago where I found an eyelash. And it's like, well, like I literally have not been able to have lox and bagel since yesterday with the incident in my house with the omelet. I was like literally like losing the omelet in my throat. I had to actually right now it's kind of hitting me. Actually,
I will back away from this a little bit and remove the details. I will say that if I was in a position where I felt like I could neither eat lox and bagels nor omelets, I feel like that takes away 100% of the breakfast food I eat. Yeah,
I know. So
I would just stop eating breakfast if I were you at this point.
Don't think about it. That's how I'm feeling. So yeah, that's my secondary fear.
On the other hand, lox and bagels sound real good right now, and I wish there was a good place to get it in Madison.
I'm just picturing it. It was like such a dark eyelash too. It's never left me, and I almost broke it off with Rob in 2013. He made me some eggs too, and it was almost like he cleaned a hairbrush and it was in there. Neither of us like know what happened, like why there was so much hair, but it was like every bite had hair in it, and I just remember being like, I just don't think this is going to work out anymore.
Think I want you to break it off with Rob right now.
No, it was so gross.
And I want you to tell him that I intend to have no further contact with him.
No, I know. And actually, it's actually triggering my reflex. Like I said, the last thing I'll tell you is people are like, oh, you can't possibly have catophobia. It's so bad that after the omelet incident, I had a dream. And in the dream, there was this woman and we were kind of like standing around in this building. I don't know what we were doing. We were kind of chilling and she was like, I need your help. And I was like, oh gosh, yeah, I'll for sure help you. And then she's like, a woman has thrown up. And I was like, oh, if I see you throw up, I'll throw up. You might not want my help. And so literally in my dream, I turn a corner. There's just barf everywhere. And it's an older woman. I feel so bad because she doesn't want to throw up because she's probably like very weak in her abdominal muscles. And so I turn the corner. I'm like, okay, I'm holding it together. It hits me in the face. And then there's a hairball in the vomit. And here's where it gets weirder. This has never happened to me. In my dream, I start gagging. In my dream, it wakes me out of sleep. I wake up actually gagging like in real life. I'm like heaving in real life because of my dream.
I am going to go on the record as assuming that your body was beginning to have some sort of nausea response and that made the dream be about vomiting.
Do you think so?
I suspect that's what happened.
Oh, I wonder.
Like, do you ever do the thing where you dream about going to the bathroom to go pee and then you wake up and you suddenly have to pee like right this second?
Yeah.
I think it's probably that.
And sometimes it's too late. Has that ever happened to you?
I refuse to comment, Senator. I have no recollection of those events.
I mean, it's only happened to me once, but I can be honest about it. It happened to me in college. But yes, I know what that means. I just wish I wasn't on the top bunk. It was unfortunate for my roommate. But
yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's sad.
I also want to say in the lengthy and storied history of this podcast, we've talked about We've talked about projectile pooping, and we've talked about piss play, and we've talked about this and that. I've never been so dismal at the end of a conversation.
I know.
As I feel like
I'm so sorry. We're going to have to pick it. I do actually feel like a visceral reaction to this conversation. So sorry for listeners, but I do also feel better just kind of saying out loud what I've tried to process for the last few days with between hair and the cooking. So
feel better. These things.
We're gonna have to regain some steam because this is a fun episode. This is supposed to be exciting.
So let's put ourselves in the big top. Let's put ourselves surrounded by those big piles of straw that smell of elephant piss and big piles of horse shit, and God knows what the children are doing when they eat all that cotton candy and candy corns and just go running around screaming and then just puke up like orange and pink puke.
Yes, as it happens.
The
circus. Thank you to Carl Beasley for this episode. And you know what? I think you and I are on the same page. Let's talk a little bit about our history with circuses in our lives. Are you, as a kid, were you a circus man? Are you a circus man now? Where do you stand on the life of circuses?
Well, I don't know that you can be a circus man now because I don't know that they exist.
Sure.
I mean, when was the last time the circus came to town?
I went to a circus for the first and last time in 2015.
Interesting.
In Madison.
I was not aware you could still go to circuses as late as 2015. Well, Madison was it's a backwards Wisconsin town, so that makes sense. I probably was at a circus last in the 80s.
Oh, okay. And what was your feeling on it at the time?
Boredom interrupted by terror. I have a legitimate fear of clowns.
Okay.
Like, I don't like them. I have never liked them. My mother believes this can be traced back to a traumatic experience where she dressed as a clown for, I believe, my third birthday.
No.
And apparently that freaked me out. And then I looked around for Mommy and I couldn't find Mommy because that was Mommy. Mommy was the clown and I couldn't parse that in my 3-year-old brain.
Do you remember this?
That's her opinion. I don't know if that's true or not.
Do you remember that incident though?
I certainly do not.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Only the story being told about it. But no, from a very young age, I have not been okay with clowns. Now, I am not phobic. Like, if I watch a movie in which clowns appear, I do not have a like, oh my God, no, get it away from me. Like a friend of mine, if she watches a movie with snakes, literally can't, like, has to like not watch the movie. So she cannot make it through Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I feel for her.
Poor child, poor soul. I'm not that. I mean, if I'm watching a movie where, say, Roger Moore is James Bond 007, the clown, which is Octopussy, of course.
Yes.
I'm fine with that. But I do not like clowns. I do not want to go see clowns pratfalling. And nothing else that happens at a circus is of enough interest to make me want to deal with the fact that clowns will also be there.
Right. No,
because everything else that happens in the circus is like, look at these horses. They can walk in a circle. The person riding them can stand on their back while they're doing so. It's like, oh my God.
So here's
I could be playing Mario right now, and this is what you're expecting me to find entertaining.
I diverge on that with you in terms of I would love to watch a horse with people on its back walking around. As a kid, I would, and I didn't go to the circus as a kid. So like maybe the fair, maybe what I saw in movies, I don't know. But I would love the spectacle. I think the problem I have now is with adult eyes, I'm just like, holy crap, these poor animals. Like I think I would like Cirque du Soleil. I like people like flipping through the air. I like all of that. I like balancing on things. I like feats of strength. Like I like all of that. I just don't like the animal part. I just don't like the fact that these animals are in cages. They clearly don't want to be there. They don't want to be doing this. And now I just have a hard time in general with it, which has also led me to having a little bit of a hard time even at zoos. Like I used to take the kids to zoos all the time when they were little. And now I'm like, I don't even know how I feel about this. Like if they're like an animal that's not going to make it in the wild and that's why they have them there, like, I'm kind of like, maybe it's fine. But I feel like then when babies are born in the zoo, it's kind of like, are you going to like put them back? Are you going to, I don't know. Just the whole ethical thing of it. I'm a little so on circuses and fairs and zoos for all those reasons.
Yeah. I am in general someone who has much less, this is going to sound very callous and horrible. I used to care more about animal welfare than I do now.
And what's the change?
I think in general, I have just gotten so calloused and cold in the last like 3 or 4 years that I'm like, I don't care.
You don't care about
animals. I don't care about people.
Yeah.
I will say when I go to a zoo, I do strongly try to avoid the big cats because I find that just terribly, terribly depressing.
Yeah, it's sad.
But like, you got a bunch of fucking penguins. They're fucking penguins. They're stupid animals who do the shit about penguins.
Capybara in there. They don't even know.
They're cute. They're waddling around. They're jumping into the water. Whatever. They don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And if you did,
birds are the size of pistachios.
This is all fair. Do you have a favorite animal though? If you were to go to the circus, I'd like to know what's the one animal.
I thought you were going to say zoo, and I was like, "There's actually a red panda at the zoo in Madison," and I make sure I always see it.
So cute. But let's talk circus because we're on circuses. If you had one show that you were going to the circus, one animal that you'd want to see, which would it be?
Other than elephants and horses, what animals do they actually have at circuses? I guess they have lions. Like the lions eat the guy's head off.
Snakes, the giant snake, gorillas. Sometimes they have monkeys. Sometimes they have birds of prey.
I guess if that's my list, I would probably go with birds of prey if that's an option. Because I do, going back against what I just said, I do think that in general, primates should not be animals that we keep in cages specifically.
I couldn't agree more because that is my favorite. And like, if I knew that it was an animal that was not going to make it out in the wild, it's the one I want to see the most of the primates. Like if I knew that they had to be there for their survival, but it's tragic. Like when you go there and you watch them.
I am fully convinced that at least the other apes are like intelligent enough to know that they are in captivity.
Yeah, I think they are too. And
that to me is sort of the threshold. Like, does it know that it is captive? I think elephants do. And so that's why I'm sort of very anti-elephants in circuses.
Same. Couldn't agree more. The smarter you get, the more sad I feel. It's sort of.
But again, penguins.
Penguins, you don't care. Snakes,
birds,
flamingos.
Fuck ever.
Yeah. It's just a flamingo.
And pigs, I carve out an exception for. Pigs are actual evil and deserve it. And they should know that they deserve it, even though I think pigs are smart enough to know that they're in captivity.
They are super smart.
I hope it causes them distress to realize that they're going to be eaten because they're vile creatures.
I can't disagree more with you. I think they're adorable and sweet, and we should never eat them. But again, to each their own. Someone's got to be in the zoo, so it's got to be pigs and penguins. But that said,
that's going to be the title of my zoo: the pig and the penguin.
Yeah, that's all you get. There
will be one of each.
And it was hard for this episode because I was going I kind of shy away from circus movies in general because it's not my favorite genre, I'd say. So it was really hard to make sure that I kept out fairs. You could not have a fair in here. There must be sort of animals. There has to be circus-like things. It can't just be like an amusement park. And it could not be a zoo in my criteria. So there had to be a circus present in the movie. Did you have any other criteria other than that?
I regret to say I did not even have that criteria. One of the very first decisions I made was, traveling carnivals are almost indistinguishable from circuses, right? They have carnies.
No animals. There's no animals at those.
There's no animals at Cirque du Soleil. Are you going to say that Cirque du Soleil? Well, I guess humans are animals. But if humans are animals, then almost every movie ever made has animals in it.
I don't have a Cirque du Soleil pick here. I only have carnivals. And then one's a little bit on the edge, but I've got some justification for it.
Okay, no, my rule was if it travels from town to town showing oddities and spectacle, it qualifies. So traveling sideshows, like freak show type things, circuses, like things that no one would possibly dispute are circuses, troops of clowns.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I believe is a sight in the Italian countryside, just clowns wandering through the fields.
That's going to count. That's going to count for you.
After dark, who knows?
Okay.
So yeah, I certainly have I am tempted to say a majority of my films do not meet your definition. Well, maybe only two. Two for sure would not meet your definition.
Oh, geez. I don't even know where we're going to go here. I thought we were going to have 100% alignment because I actually hate all of these movies. They're on my list. Hate is a strong word. I don't love all of the movies that are on my list until I get to 1 and 2. So it's sort of a rough road.
love all of the movies on my list. And that is why sometimes, Carrie, of all people, I shouldn't have to explain this to you. Sometimes we allow the rules to be guidelines and not straitjackets if it allows us to talk about movies we want to talk about.
Not the criteria I've ever had. That's for sure.
Okay. By the way, if you haven't listened to our episode on our top 5 Pontius pilots, it's available on alternateending.com.
Which is 100% accurate if you're looking for a list of godlike movies. All right, Tim, I'm going to kick it to you for your number 5, where are you coming in with?
This is the clearest cut example of one you would not have on your list. This has no animals in it. It does not have a tent. It does not have, well, it has like tent-like structures, I guess. It doesn't have 3 rings. It does have a sideshow. It has what is called perhaps a nightmare alley.
Oh, geez.
This is mind you, the original Nightmare Alley, the 1947 Nightmare Alley, the one that stars Tyrone Power as the character later played by Bradley Cooper. Same basic concept. You have a traveling carnival with this kind of real tacky, like, human oddities collection, the Nightmare Alley being the kind of row of, like, see the person who eats the chicken's head off, see the person who does this, see the person who does this. And this sort of low rent piece of shit guy played by Tyrone Power sort of gets himself worked into the life of the traveling carnival and discovers in so doing the joys of being a low rent con artist, and tries to use this to make his fortune, but indeed it backfires and causes him to become an even more degraded exploiter and exploitee of the most kind of seedy, depraved humanity that he could possibly be. And great movie, only Tyrone Power performance that I just absolutely no holds barred love. Sordid atmosphere. And getting back to our point, Carrie, that neither you nor I are fans of this marvelous medium called the circus. I noticed that I sort of gravitated towards movies that suggest the life of traveling on the road, setting up your tents, putting on a show, and then leaving. The gypsies, tramps, and thieves life, if you will. What sort of person is attracted to that? Probably not a very healthy one, probably not a very nice one. So my films in general do gravitate towards this is a horrible way to live.
Okay.
Because I don't have a whole lot of romance for it. And certainly Nightmare Alley in particular is a film that just is full of just this kind of exhausted, sweaty nastiness that there's you would not want to live in this world. You would not want to join this traveling carnival. They are bad people. Yeah. And bad things happen to them.
Did you like the new Nightmare Alley?
I thought it was okay. It wasn't anything particularly special. I think the original is certainly better. The original is tighter. It's a half hour shorter. And as you know, the most important criterion for me when I'm judging whether a movie is good or bad is how short was it.
Yeah. Well, and I thought, so the concept of it I really like, which makes me want to actually check this one out, because I actually liked the idea of what it was about, and I liked, the kind of the behind the scenes and all of that. I liked what it was going for. I wasn't really feeling the performances in the new one. Like, it just felt very phoned in, and like we've just brought in a bunch of really big actors to get you in to see it, and it just, I don't know, it didn't hit for me. And so
if the performances were your specific stumbling block, I think I would absolutely recommend this. Now they're 40s actors, so they're in a sort of different vibe anyway. Yeah. And I don't know if that's one you would like, but they're certainly, because I agree. I think the performances, some of the side performances I think are really solid, but I think the central performances in the new Nightmare Alley are pretty fun. Oh, look, it's Cate Blanchett doing a thing we all knew she could do 10 years ago.
Yes, this is exactly how I felt. So I didn't like it, but this is tempting me to check that one out. All right, I'm going to go to my number 5. And again, for me on this one, I've seen it so many times. My babysitter when I was little was a very godly woman, a saint of sorts, and she had a rotation of very few things that we could watch. So it was really just Mr. Rogers. We got 30 minutes a day of TV time. And
so you've got Mr. Rogers Goes to the Circus.
Mr. Rogers Goes, does that exist?
There are so many Mr. Rogers visits place. There has to be one where he went to the circus, right?
What a miss. I hope so. I'm sure there is, but that's not the one. But I was only allowed to watch Mr. Rogers and this movie. There's so many things I don't like about this movie. The bullying, the fighting, the nasty picking.
I don't like where this is going, but continue.
The mom's eyes when she gets upset and freaked out and mad, and they get all narrow in these little like almond downward shapes because she's so pissed. And that whole thing, I still am just like, oh, every time I watch it, I'm like, this movie horrifies me because it's so sad and tragic and mean. And this is 1941's Dumbo.
This is my number one.
This terrible movie.
This is like one of my 20 favorite movies.
It's so mean. It's like the meanest movie. It's like a core memory of all the things. Like as a kid, I would always like kind of close my eyes when it would get to the part where the mom was ticked because she just was so mad. And I just felt like, why are these jerks on me? He's just got big ears. Like, why don't you just leave him alone?
I knew we were going to overlap because I thought for sure this would be your number one. And I'm horrified now that you prefaced your list with you only like your top two.
I won't say that I hate this movie, but it's definitely a movie that I wouldn't actively seek out to watch again because it leaves me feeling
but it makes
distressed.
Me cry so hard, Carrie.
But that's the thing. All I do is toggle between rage and sadness. Like it's just like unrelenting.
It's a masterpiece.
When the mom like reaches out, it's like when she's locked up.
When she's in the prison and she sticks her trunk out,
picks jumps in her little trunk, and it's just and I wrote it's so sad and cried thinking about it. I think it was like one of your top 5 saddest movies.
It might have been my number one.
It might have been. It's tragic, and poor Mrs. Jumbo is just trying to do her thing and trying to take care of Dumbo, and then it's like, oh, they only like Dumbo once he adds value to them because he realizes he can fly, and it's just like. It is a brutal acknowledgement of the crushing realities of life under capitalism. Yeah. You know what? And I don't like it.
I agree. 5-star movie. 5-star movie all around.
Again, this is the one that I've seen the most on my list. I've probably seen this movie like
it's the one I've seen the most on my list as well.
I've seen it 80 times, and every time I'm still as horrified as I was before. So is that the one with the black crows in it, or is that Fantasia?
No, that's this one.
That's this one. So this is also the racist one.
That's also the racist one. Yes. Love the Crows. Great characters, beautiful character animation, best song in the movie.
Yeah. So it's just got all these things going for it. But core memory indeed. Core memory.
We haven't discussed remotely the circus of it.
I mean, so we
should do that because this is a circus episode.
You're right. So the circus element of it is they're at a circus. So these people are trying to get Dumbo to jump off a platform into the elephant's game is you jump off a giant platform into a tiny bucket of water at the bottom. And so he's really afraid to do that. And then because Dumbo's ears are very robust, he then is able to learn to fly, which ultimately becomes his biggest value to the circus. Is that what you would say?
What I was going to say, because my list gravitated towards the circus is a site of the most depraved exploitation. The exact things that you find so unwatchable are to me what is the circusness of it. This poor, sweet, thoroughly guileless innocent who is animated by Vladimir Titla, the great Disney animator, with just such a boundless charm. He has such a sweet baby creature.
His eyes are just
his little smiley face, purity. His little tiny nose, tiny for elephant, big huge ass trunk nose. He's just such a completely compelling and appealing character. Like there's no element of Dumbo, the character, who is not just lovable, and to watch him sort of be like discarded until they think, well, maybe if we make him a prop for these horrible, horrible clowns. And this is a movie I think that is actually very key in my hatred of clowns. The clowns in this movie are just shit.
Yeah.
They're just shit.
They're hate these
vicious
clowns.
Shit.
Yes. They're the worst. Don't they like light something on fire? And
they light the whole building on fire and try to push Dumbo out of it. And there's the scene where we see their silhouettes while they're talking about like all the horrible things they're going to do to the elephant because it's going to be funny, and they're getting drunk and they're just like belligerent, uncouth assholes are the clowns in this movie. And that's the whole thing. The whole movie is like he's stuck in this place that is fundamentally deprived of human softness because that's what the circus is. It's where all of the dregs of humanity end up in wagons and just kind of grind their way from town to town,
trying to have power over other people who are like less equipped to fight back, and it's just like,
also you have that very charming opening sequence with all the baby animals, and I think that's circus too.
I just hate this movie. Again, hate is a strong word. There's good.
Hate had better be a strong word.
That's a good. I like some of the animation.
You hate the richness of the emotions that this movie makes you feel.
Yeah, exactly. We'll put it that way to land on common ground.
I am as scandalized that you put this movie not at number 1, or rather that you put this movie at number 5, prefacing it with you hate this movie. I find that as just shocking as anything I have ever done on any of my lists.
It's going to get less bad as we go, but
it has to, because there's nothing worse than what you've just done to me.
I mean, the movies are going to get less bad, but nevertheless, let's move to your number 4 and see if we match up again.
We don't. You haven't heard of this, and if you've heard of it, you certainly haven't seen it.
All right, give it to me.
So, what do we know about clowns?
They have makeup and are often pedophiles.
They have makeup. Well, actually, you're not all that wrong. So they wear big smiles.
Yes.
But do you suppose, Carrie, that those big painted smiles might mask a frown?
Maybe.
So this is a movie. The title of this movie is Laugh, Clown, Laugh, about a very sad clown who has adopted a foundling. The clown's name is Tito, and he finds an abandoned child that he names Simonetta after his brother Simon, or Simon. And Simonetta grows into beautiful womanhood, and the clown falls in love with her, but he is an ugly, baggy, wretched clown, and she falls in love with a wealthy man. And so the clown just is increasingly sad and broken. And in order to make sure that his adopted daughter can live her best life, the clown basically puts himself in a position where he can die to free her from him being like this kind of negative force in her life.
So does he die?
He dies.
Oh.
He dies. It's sad. It's sad. And that's why the word laugh is in the title twice. If the word laugh is in the title of the movie twice, you know that there's not going to be a single laugh in it.
Yeah, it's like laughless.
And the clown is played by Lon Chaney Sr. in what I believe to be the best performance of his career. Certainly the one where he just gets to tap into the most kind of deep, sorrowful, ugly things inside of him. And it's just this very miserable little melodrama of people suffering and how they still have to go put on the show. They still have to put on the makeup. They still have to put on the big clown smile because people don't think of clowns as being people within our lives, right? It's the sort of the
background actor. Yeah.
The Pagliacci thing. So that's what this is. It's basically just, the clown
is sad
suffers and suffers and suffers and then dies.
Wow.
The end.
This is
and
nice.
It all happens without any of that pesky dialogue to make it not immediate and direct, because it's a silent movie, because Lon Chaney only pretty much made silent movies.
I was tempted. There was one other silent one, because I was like, maybe it'll be my favorite, that I was tempted to watch. It was like a Chaplin film, I think, that I was going to try and catch. Maybe I still will if you tell me it's good later. But I thought maybe that was my best case scenario to start liking these, was just no sound at all, maybe, or no no vocals at all. But there is sound in my pick that's slightly...
Well, have I sold you on Laugh Clown Laugh?
No, I'm not watching that. That sounds so bad. I'm looking for uplifting circus movies where like all of the animals run away, like they all flee. And
I think clowns dying is perfectly uplifting.
Yeah, well,
it means there's fewer clowns in the world, and that's good.
See, I don't love clowns, but I don't want them to die. I'm not that.
Oh,
level.
Well, that's the difference between you and me.
Exactly. And at my number 3, I'll go into what I wanted it to be, but anyway, but I'll get there. But my number 4, oh boy. So this one, I read the book, and you're going to joke because you're going to say the book is bad, but I read the book and I really, really liked the book. So I was excited when this movie came out and adapted it, because I really, really wanted to see how they portrayed these characters, how the whole thing played out. But nevertheless, the movie was not as good as the book. But this is 2011's Water for Elephants.
Is that really a 12-year-old movie at this point?
I had the same horrifying realization.
Golly,
I was
Moses.
like, this was an old person check for me. I'm like, how in the world is this over 10 years old? But this has Robert Pattinson, Reese Witherspoon, and Christoph Waltz at the head of the show. It's set in the 1930s, and it's a story of Jacob Jankowski, who I think he's like a vet, and life goes awry. He ends up like unknowingly jumping on this train, and it's a circus train. And so he ends up being employed as the circus vet, and it becomes a love story, but along the way, it's sort of like the tale of the carnies, like all of the people that are there, and they all have unique stories, and sort of the people who are sort of misanthropes, like just have all joined this. And then, of course, Christoph Waltz is terrible, as he always is in almost anything. He plays such a good, terrible character. But I guess what I'd say about this is like, I think I was fine on the movie. Like, I think I liked it okay. It's just what still stands out to me is the book. Like, I don't really remember every detail or watched it lots of times because I loved it. So I think it was just so as a movie, but it absolutely is 100% a depiction of a circus.
I want to confirm this mediocre film that you barely even have memories of seeing is for sure better than Dumbo.
Well, and here's why. I have less PTSD watching this. So I'm going in order of trauma. So it's like Dumbo being the most, Water for Elephants being the next. So that's kind of sort of how I ordered this. I should have said that.
You did not.
The least upsetting. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. This is in the order of least upsetting me.
You have a hole to dig your way out of from which you cannot see daylight, just so you're aware.
This is probably true. It's going to get worse, just so you know. So this was not on your list. You read this book,
I have not seen this movie, and I have not read this book.
Oh, I thought you read the book. Okay. I think you would hate it. I think you would not. Well, I think you would think it's okay.
I don't think I would have any sort of emotional response to it.
Yeah, I think you'd be net neutral. I guess that's what I would say too. But I liked it. It was entertaining and it was fun. So that's my number 4. So which takes us to your number 3.
My number 3. So you probably thought I was done talking about clowns suffering.
I didn't. No, I actually didn't. I knew that there was more to come.
Good, because this movie is about clowns suffering and dying. There is, I think it is fair to say, no country that has found more room to tolerate these horrible, disgusting abominations in the eyes of a loving God that we call clowns. No country has made more of a fetish object of these vile beings than Italy. So if we want to see the good clown cinema, we have to go to Italy. Okay. Because for some reason they think clowns are good. The sick.
They love clowns.
Mediterranean freaks.
Yeah.
So this is, in my opinion, the greatest of all the Italian clown movies, which is indeed enough of a genre that I can say something like the greatest of all the Italian clown movies, made by a filmmaker who was uniquely interested and invested in clowns, Federico Fellini. And yet again, we have a film about how, well, the kind of person who's going to live their life traveling place to place, rootless. This is a film about a sort of traveling. This is sort of the borderline case. Like, it's circus-y. There aren't animals, but there are kind of like, there are strongmen, there are clowns, there are acrobats, there's so on and so forth. There's musicians.
Circus. I think that's a circus.
I think it's a circus, even though there's no animals. They travel from place to place. And along the way, we have this very charming young lady who falls in with a strong man, and the strong man is kind of horrible, but he has enough money to like keep her relatively comfortable. I mean, they're wandering from place to place in the
what's her
countryside.
Gig? What's her thing? What's her circus power?
She becomes a clown.
Oh, she's a clown too. Okay, got it.
She becomes a clown. She becomes a musician, clown, and whatnot.
Okay.
And along the way, she finds another traveling performer, the Fool, and she falls in love with him, and there's this like sort of sweetness. These two gentle souls, one played by Giulietta Massina as Gelsomina, our featured clown, and Richard Basehart as the Fool, Il Matto. And they're sort of both very, very sweet, gentle characters. But then you have the strong man, Zampano, played by Anthony Quinn, who's just a brute. He's just a brute. Mm-hmm. And so the film is basically about how this just brute ruins the lives of these two sweet people, because that's how the world works when you are this kind of miserable traveling band of pseudo-humans. I feel like I'm going too dark, but also it is about, how life on the road calluses you and damages you. And that is, in fact, the title of the movie, La Strada, which translates as The Road, 1954. Very, very classic, very wonderful movie by Federico Fellini. Basically all about, if you live the life of a clown, you will suffer.
Yeah.
Because there is no way out of this
I feel bad
tragic hell that we call life.
I feel bad for this clown. So are you saying Strongman breaks it up? Does she end up with Strongman?
Do you want me to spoil La Strada?
No, I don't think I do. But now I feel bad for the weak man that you were talking about.
You should. He suffers. She suffers. The strong man even ends up suffering. Everyone suffers. There's only suffering.
I don't know if this one's called
in the life of a traveling circus on La Strada.
Nobody's winning except for that person at the top, and it's like, gosh. Yeah, like you said, capitalist, it's just all representation of capitalism, and it's all horrifying.
Yeah. So have I sold you on La Strada?
No, I'm not sold on that one either. Again, and I'm not anti-clown.
The strong man doesn't end up happy, though. The one we don't like ends up being sad.
Okay, well, we'll see. I'll look at it later. I'll look at a trailer. For this 1994 or 1954 movie.
1954 Italian melodrama.
Movie. I'll see what they put out there.
This is like the sort of movie that gets Federico Fellini attention. Okay. It's like a very, 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 very important film in the development of European art cinema.
All right. Well, I'm going to shift it back to the United States for this film, and it's going to be a little bit more current. This is a movie that I was told by all of my friends that I was going to love it. They said that has me written all over it.
I've apologized for that. I apologized for that the day of.
No, it's not. It's not that one. This is a movie that they were like, you will love it. But then after I saw it, I was enraged because it really showed me that my friends don't know me at all. Because this movie was not so great for me for multiple reasons. One, there's a whole lot of singing. And I don't love that. And then
I apologize for this movie the day you saw it.
You think you know what it is. I feel like you don't. So how about this? I'm going to tell you two more things, and then you tell me what my number 3 is. Then on top of it, I did not like the fact that I think that my friends thought I was going to like it for the focus and the message, but ultimately the focus and the message was just like not even a focal point at all, which was to highlight the circus mates, the bearded people, the people that had some quirks maybe. And to me, they were still sort of like just a sideshow, which I didn't expect. Which movie is this?
Is this The Greatest Showman?
Yeah.
I apologized on the air of this podcast for telling you I thought it was the movie that you should see from the Christmas season in that year.
Oh, I must have lumped you in my memory as a friend. Because yes, you told me this. My girlfriends from high school told me this. They all loved it. And then I came home from this and I was just like, friggin' Hugh Jackman. I liked Hugh Jackman before this movie. Now I don't like you. I wasn't a big fan of Michelle Williams because I'm like, leave this dope. Like, he is like such a jerk. Like, he's awful. And then the fact that they rounded out at the end that like he still is some sort of like good guy, even though he's terrible.